I suck at jujitsu? How do I suck less at jujitsu?
I guess to suck less.
Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to the newest episode of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. Last week, people loved the 25 hot takes, and I even got some new hot takes sent in already. So if you guys have any hot takes, we'll do another hot takes episode sometime next month. But if you have any hot takes, any strong opinions, feel free to drop them in the comments. But just to keep things going as we have been lately, I'm not going to do an intro. We're just going to kind of get into our 10 best hot takes, and these are mostly me. One of them is my dad, and then I'm sure a lot of people will share these opinions. These are things I've talked to a lot of different people about, and so I thought a really good hot take to start with, just so you could see that I mean business in today's episode of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, is that I think police officers who don't train jiu-jitsu should be fired, or at least shouldn't be allowed to be in any situation where they would have to be in a physical altercation with a resisting person or a criminal, or a violent criminal especially. When you think about how crazy it is that these guys are not trained with stuff that works, okay? So we who do jiu-jitsu, and if you've done jiu-jitsu for 5 years, if you've done jiu-jitsu for even less than that a lot of times, and you just train at a tough gym, you have seen a lot of different police officers come off the streets, and the sad thing is most of the time they're having to pay for their own jiu-jitsu. And they come and they want to learn jiu-jitsu, and a lot of times they think that what they might have learned in the police academy, or the stuff that maybe some of the departments provide, that maybe that's going to work against jiu-jitsu, or they're going to kind of be able to do something. And they roll with a 16-year-old that's 120 pounds, and he just beats them down. And it's not only that he can tap them out, it's the fact that they can't hold him down and he can hold them down, okay? I've seen this a million times, and then there are two reactions to it. I want to learn this, or I'm going to ignore what I just saw, and I'm never coming back. And honestly, I wouldn't even say it's 50-50. I've seen more police officers that got beat up want to jump in. And from my perspective, I've seen that more. I know it's not like that for everybody else, but the ones that are willing to train at my gym, somebody actually told me, this is kind of funny, that there is this conversation, because police know that jiu-jitsu is important. A lot of them do now. And there is this conversation locally within a few cities, quite a few cities on the Illinois side where I live and where my jiu-jitsu schools are located. And there's this thing that they say of like, yeah, if you want to learn like traditional jiu-jitsu, you go to these schools, right? And my school isn't on the list. And there's like some other opinions like, yeah, if you want to learn, even, if you want to do it this way, you go to this school. And then they go, like somebody said, one of these police officers that knows me goes, oh, well, what about head nod? He didn't say knew me. He just goes, what about head nod? And the guy goes, oh, they train too hard, man. You don't want to go there. And I've actually had, since then, I've had a few other police officers locally tell me like, oh yeah, I've heard that too. Like, yeah, don't train with Josh McKinney and his guys. Not like they don't like police officers and they'll try to beat you up. Just like they train too hard. Like, what? Are they going to make you too tough? Are you going to Are you going to be too tough for the streets? Is that what's going to happen? But yeah, that's hot take number one. I thought a good place to start is let's fire some people, man. Let's get rid of some people. I really do see it as a duty. If your job is to protect and serve people, to actually be able to protect people and be able to protect yourself too. These guys that go in the line of duty and women that go in the line of duty, it's a high stress job. It's a super hard job. You probably don't get paid enough. You're generally, you don't have enough police officers in your department, and you guys are spread thin. And then you, on top of that, have to pay for jiu-jitsu yourself. I get it. That's not ideal. But I value getting good at jiu-jitsu. And so when it comes to learning jiu-jitsu, I still pay for jiu-jitsu myself, right? I still make sure that I am dedicating my time and money and efforts to getting better for me, because that is how I teach my students to get better. For you, it's different. It is a life or death thing. It is your ability to keep your kids having a parent that comes home, right? And then hopefully protect other kids' parents too. And to be able to do that, I really think you just need to train something effective. You need to actually train. It's not go to a seminar. It is actually get hands-on and learn how to actually control people. Something that I always joke about my gym, give negative shout-outs, but like when I look at all of my police officers that train under me and are, I think, blue belt and above. I think all my police officers with blue belt and above teach jiu-jitsu to police officers. And to me, that makes me more comfortable living where I live. It really does, knowing that these guys who care so much, and for me, I know that I have done my job of equipping them with the best jiu-jitsu that I could for any situation. And to be able to, for these guys to be able to be studying under other coaches and then building their own curriculums, right? We'll actually get some of these guys on the podcast soon, and actually talk about some of this stuff. But before we do that, just that statement. These guys agree with me. They do not like that there are so many police officers that don't train, and then they care about it so much that they are putting their time and effort into trying to change that. And so, we'll get into that kind of stuff, but that's just hot take number one. I think hot take number two, we'll chill out a little bit. We'll go a little easier, and we'll go that jiu-jitsu is one of the best ways to see the world. And I really love how when Chris Paines and Charles Harriott were on the podcast, they were talking about how it is this vehicle for travel. And they weren't the first people to say that, but just on the podcast, to me, they're the first people to say that. And they were explaining think about how many people and they're just giving me an example who I really don't use jiu-jitsu to travel a whole lot. I compete a lot, and so that's what most of my traveling is right now. And that's more expensive than just traveling to travel. But I would say, like, if you're a coach, being able to teach and even just fund your travel, you don't have to be that good of a coach to do that. When it comes to teaching private lessons and just having an active enough Instagram that you know enough people that you have places to crash on their couch, right? And you see this. Most communities don't work like that. Most of the time, I am not a big rollerblader, right? Don't get me wrong. I used to be able to shred, but I was 8 years old then, right? And I really think being so short and having such a big head kind of kept me low enough to the ground that I was cut out for blading back then. I don't know if I could rollerblade anymore. My head's the same size, but I'm just taller. And so I don't even know where I was going with the rollerblading. Oh yeah, so if there is a really good group, this is going to be so dumb. If there is a really big group of rollerbladers that all meet each other, and then they all go their separate ways, and then the next week, one of them lives in New York, and he gets a message like, "Hey, dude, we bladed together last Wednesday for 3 minutes. We did a 3-minute blading round together. Can I crash on your couch? I'm going to be in New York blading at Marcelo Garcia's gym. And I just needed somebody to stay with. Can I crash on your couch?" I'm sure that people just don't have free couches in New York. But just go with me here. And dude's like, "Oh yeah, of course. We bladed together for 3 minutes." That means something. Now, if you replace that with jiu-jitsu, it really does happen like that. You do meet people and you train with once, and then you don't hear from years, and then you hear from them and you're like, "Oh yeah, this dude's he's one of my best friends. We did that hard round together and it was really close, and I beat him on an advantage right at the end, and he was like, 'Oh dude, that was awesome.' And just the whole experience was great. He told me about his family afterwards, and that was that. But we're best friends now." Right? We all have jiu-jitsu friendships that are like that. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the weirdo. But my friend Chris Paynes has done a great job. He's stayed in my parents' guest room. He's done a great job traveling and seeing the world. And he always does say that Granite City is his favorite place that he visited. Just so you guys know, that's always his number one shout out. But he always looks at, man, where else haven't I seen? Where could I see? And if I make a little money, great. But even if I just make enough to break even and see this brand new place and eat with the people that live in it, and talk with them, and that is so valuable to him. And he has really built this freedom of location through his jiu-jitsu. And I just don't think that is super possible for a lot of people. And especially though now when you think about how much work is done remotely anyway, and how most people could be making money while crashing at a cheap place or somebody else's house just because they know the locals of the area, right? And again, you get good training, and then the people that do this will literally go into a town, train at a few different open mats, and by the end of the weekend have multiple places to stay and multiple offers of "Hey, you said you were gonna, you're sleeping in your RV, but you could, you guys can crash at our house." And you see this so often in the jiu-jitsu community. And I just think that people don't realize that they don't realize people's dream of life is to travel. It's just never been mine, but I understand why it might be somebody else's. It can be so much fun to travel. Someday I will do a jiu-jitsu travel tips episode. That's a good idea. I need to write that down somewhere. Somebody write that down for me. Send it, note to self, send me an email at josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com and remind me to record all of the episodes that I always throw at you guys, so I don't forget. Let's go to the next hot take. This is going to be hot take number 3. And this is rough. People who make jiu-jitsu more complex don't actually know jiu-jitsu. I think that this is my only critique when it comes to teaching, right? Are people that don't make things easier for us, right? Or at least just show a different perspective. People that make jiu-jitsu more complex, generally to me, are just insecure and are trying to make other people feel dumb. And a lot of people have terrible self-images. It's very easy to make people feel dumb. But it's hard to teach people something that is hard and to make it easy. And so when you're approaching a jiu-jitsu class and you have to teach it, when you're approaching teaching a seminar, when I am teaching a seminar, when I'm teaching a class, I generally just think about simplicity. I generally think about one idea that we're going to accomplish here, right? And then all that time that I'm allowed to dedicate and focus is very, very simple, and it is just built on something important, right? The problem that I always see when somebody teaches a jiu-jitsu class is they do the 3 moves and then roll live, or 3 moves and then positional spar or whatever. But they'll teach 3 moves or 3 techniques or whatever you want to call it. And with all 3 moves, they will show you not even steps, I would say details. People show so many details. Like, you want to be right here on the collar, and then you want to be right here on this, and you want to do it this way. And a lot of times, again, this is just, to me, when I see this being explained, it's just a lack of understanding. Sometimes you can just be so excited and not have your wording perfect yet. But again, that is still your understanding, is how you are able to convey it to other people. And so it's just like, if you give me 10 details on 3 moves, that's 30 things I'm supposed to remember each night. And then you have me train 3 times a week. That's 90 things that I'm going to be, that I need to remember right now, right? 90 different things. And then we multiply that by 52. That's a lot more different things. I did quick math that was correct last week. I'm not going to try any more quick math right now. I'm only half Asian, guys, so don't push me here. But you think about how many details that is, even if techniques are being repeated, even if there was 3 details per one of those 3 moves and you were learning 9 important things each night. The problem is there aren't 9 important things, right? It really can be boiled down to 1 or 2 things, and a really good instructor in jiu-jitsu, a really good explainer of jiu-jitsu is going to do that. And you go, what? Well, I'm not a good explainer of jiu-jitsu. Well, then you should be learning, right? I wasn't good at teaching when I first started teaching. Honestly, when I first started teaching jiu-jitsu as a purple belt, I had probably taught a total of 30 jiu-jitsu classes over my whole entire jiu-jitsu life. I had taught about 30 jiu-jitsu classes, and now I'm a head coach at a gym, and I teach every single class. I had no idea how to structure curriculum. If I cared about curriculum now, I really don't. But back then, whatever that was, 7 or 8 years ago, holy smokes, it was 9 years ago. I was 21. I'm old, guys. Oh my gosh, I did not see that coming. That was a twist on this episode that I just did not anticipate, was realizing how old I was. Holy smokes. Anyway, I'm just joking. I'm not worried about it. We have a good thing for the old, good shout out for the old guys, in a couple hot takes. But anyway, when it comes to teaching, then it was just like, how can I learn to do it? And so I just found good teachers, right? Hinner and Huron, I had went to a Huron seminar, and it was so groundbreaking for me how simple he made maintaining side control. And it was just some simple hand fighting, and he's like, when they do this, you do this. When they do this, you do this. And when they do this, you do this. It was 3 movements. I still, even though my perspective is totally different on jiu-jitsu now, when people want to know about hand fighting, I teach the exact same hand fighting that he taught. And I didn't know what he had taught. I did it maybe occasionally, but I didn't realize how simple and effective it could be. And that made me go, okay, this guy in his seminar was also just super duper unique. It was probably the coolest seminar I've been to. While we're going to go off on this tangent, this dude, I don't know if I've ever said this. He starts his seminar, I think he did 2 in a day. And they were both great. One was on guillotines, and then the other one was on just kind of like pressure and maintaining top. And then he was like, when he was going to start one of them, he pulls out his phone and he's like, everybody's stretching. Or he's like sitting in a circle and he's like, do this stretch. And like, we're like, okay, I guess this is the seminar starting. It just kind of like says it to the room and everybody starts doing it. And he's like, yeah, it's good for a bad back. And then he grabs his phone and he looks at it and he goes, I have these 10 rules of jiu-jitsu and of life. And they're on my phone. I've had them for a while. I don't know. Maybe I'll make them a book one day. Can I share them with you guys? And we were all like, yeah, share them with us. And they, this is so dumb to say. One of them actually completely changed my life too. There was one perspective that he shared that I still think about to this day, and it really did cause me to make decisions that totally changed my life. One of the best seminars I ever went to. Holy smokes, what are we even on? But yeah, just when it comes to the complexity of seminars, it wasn't anything complex that he shared. Everything that he shared was simple, but people say that stuff like, oh, it changed my life. It really did. And it was because it was just so simple. It was because he made it make so much sense. I'll even explain it to you. I'll just tell you guys what it was. I was not sure if I was ready to get married yet. And Emily, my current wife, spoiler alert, and I were together, and I just was not sure. Because I was young, I just didn't know. And he gave this example on the decisions you making today and how important it is for tomorrow. And he gave this example of when I am if I want to have a family and I want to be a loving husband and I want to be all these things, he's like, and my actions today don't reflect that. He's like, then I actually don't want to be a loving husband. He's like, because if I cared about it enough, I would put this, and he put it into a perspective that just made so much sense. And yeah, I'm not exaggerating when I say I was like, oh, I do love Emily and I do want to have a life with her and be her husband. And as crazy as that sounds, that was from a jiu-jitsu seminar, and it wasn't complex. It was easy. He just made things simple. And so most jiu-jitsu that you're hearing where people are using words, most of the time it's not for us to be more clear and to be more concise. Most of the time it's to make you feel dumb and to say, I am all-knowing and you know nothing. And so let's go to, now on the seminar note, this is a good one. There is more value in 5 competitive BJJ matches than in 5 seminars. And then I put in parentheses average seminars. So what do I mean by that? I have been to, like I said, I invest in my jiu-jitsu and have forever. That's just something my dad has taught me to do. He invested in my jiu-jitsu and in his jiu-jitsu before I had any money, and we just always... And it wasn't just jiu-jitsu. It was how he learned personal training. It was like he was a great personal trainer, but he was still trying to learn from the best guys and trying to talk to the best guys and learn a little more from them and get a workout from them. And he still does that to this day, after 35 years. And those habits, one, they're fun, but he taught me to have fun with those things. And so I have been to a million jiu-jitsu seminars. And if I had to put a count on it, I don't even want to try to add it up, because when you think about $50 to $100 to $150 per seminar, and then you think about Bitcoin, I would not be recording a podcast right now. And if I did, it would be on a better camera than I have. But when I think about all those seminars, I would say 90% of them were some of them sucked, actually. There were some that were pretty bad. Maybe there was like 10% that were just terrible. I feel like maybe most of the time I would filter and not go to those. But I've been to some stinkers. But then I would say about 80%, 85%, 87% from there, I haven't been to many great seminars. I could probably say I've been to maybe 5 or 6 absolutely great seminars out of probably 100 seminars. Or when you go to private classes that were taught and private lessons, you can triple that number probably. And most private lessons weren't very good. Most jiu-jitsu teaching was just too complex. Now, I've had tons of jiu-jitsu matches. There are very few that I can name that I can say, oh, I didn't learn something really valuable from that match. Even years later when I looked back on it and I go, oh, I corrected that mistake. This mistake is important. I can help my students with it, right? Something as simple as that. But I have always been able to draw so much more value from competitive jiu-jitsu matches. And, in really, really competitive rounds, it's kind of hard to get really, really competitive rounds for most of us, right? Rounds where you have potential to win and you have potential to lose, and it's really just built around which one of you is better that day because you're just that close and that neck and neck, and then you fix stuff, and so you keep pushing each other. If you have a training partner like that, very few people do. But if you're looking at, if you're just looking at a really intense, high-level stuff that allows you to make small detail tweaks. When we looked at back on that analogy of like you having 45,000 details that you're learning each year, and we're supposed to say that all those are important, or there's any chance that you're going to remember any of them, right? Because they were all sold to you at the same value. They were all like, oh yeah, this detail is so important for this choke. It's like, yeah, but has everybody that's ever finished that choke done that exact thing? Has their hand been in that place, right? Maybe it's not that important, and it helped you, right? And so when it comes to that, when it comes to teaching, I think understanding and teaching is incredibly important, but we've probably put too much focus on it in jiu-jitsu, and then not enough focus on our best guys understanding deeper and actually figuring out ways to teach this better. And so, there are millions of hot takes in this episode. Let's go. Let's go before we go to a commercial, because if I'm being honest with you guys, I do have a bonus that I'll throw in, a bonus hot take. I think there's 11. There are at least 5 levels at black belt, at least 5 different levels of, let's say at black belt in 2024. There are at least 5 different layers to black belt skill that I've seen. And again, these are my hot takes. And so this is my opinion. I would say, you could probably say like there is A, B, C, D rank black belts. And then there's S tier black belts, right? And so you've got, and then anything below D is an F rank. And so they probably shouldn't be black belts, right? You have a lot of people that skill-wise really aren't there, and that's okay. I think you can get a black belt in jiu-jitsu and not be there skill-wise, and be like close, but just not there. But I think you have to have shown the other things that whatever that school or that coach values, right? And for me, like, consistency is my biggest thing that I value. The guys that have just been there day in, day out for a long period of time are the guys that I couldn't care less if they still suck. I care more about their dedication to the art, because eventually something's going to click for them, right? Something is going to work for them. And it's like my job as a coach to just keep working with that guy until we find what's going to work for him. And so, I just think that so often we look at like, okay, the black belt is going to be all this skill, and sometimes it's not that. And so I would say for most of those guys that are black belts and they should have a black belt in jiu-jitsu, they kind of fall into this D tier of black belt. Those guys probably shouldn't compete even, no matter what age they do. And if they do compete, a super fight is going to be really smart if you can kind of pick who your opponent's going to be locally. Going into a tournament where you have the potential at black belt to go with even a B tier guy or an A tier guy, like you're in a lot of trouble. Okay. And so then we'll go into, that's kind of like your D tier guys that shouldn't compete. Then you got C tier, right? And this is where most people are probably entry level black belts. And I think that these guys most likely should compete, because one of the best ways to get past C tier, because most of us don't even realize that there's anything past there. When I got to black belt, I would say on the adult scale, I would say I was probably C tier, maybe. Yeah, I would say I was. I mean, in the gym, I probably had a lot of B tier skills, but when it came to competing and stuff, I was definitely C tier. When it came to winning, I was definitely C tier. And so, and that would have been 6 years ago. I'm not going to tell you guys what tier I'm at now. It's not S tier, but I'm not going to tell you guys where I'm at now, in my opinion, on this scale. But there are just these insane levels. Okay, so then you go from this C tier where most people start, and then there's like the seasoned black belt. And honestly, if I'm really going to give you hot takes, most black belts never get past C tier. Most black belts will stay there skill wise forever. The game will pass them up and they'll eventually fall into D tier. And then we've seen guys whose the game has passed them up and their understanding has stayed so low that they fall out of even being a good black belt. They don't even understand how jiu-jitsu works anymore. And we've seen this, at least I've seen this before with some people. But anyway, it's just like the guys that maintain, that keep training really hard, they start to get into that next class, that B tier class. And these are, to be honest, so few people will ever be at this level of like a B tier black belt. To me, is going to show up, and it does not matter who's on the mat. No non-black belt is going to beat them. And they will beat most average black belts pretty consistently, right? And that to me is a B tier guy. And it's crazy, but like you don't realize this difference unless you are in those tiers. I know this is what I'm talking about just sounds totally bizarre and like I'm making it up. I swear to you, this is true. I will explain it to one of my students, John Tyson. We talk a lot of trash on people, but we talk a lot of jiu-jitsu. And I'll be like, I'll roll with 2 or 3 different black belts and he'll get to roll with all of them. And he's a purple belt. He's a really tough purple belt too. And he will say something like, man, that guy is so good. And I'll be like, did you think he was better than the other two? And he'd be like, well, I mean, yeah, I felt like he was way better than the other two. And I was like, no. They weren't even, the other two he sucked, dude. Compared to the other 2 black belts. The other 2 black belts were like elite level. I think they were just being cool. I think they were just being nice. That last guy was just going super, super hard, and he's still a black belt. And so it's hard to even determine a difference until you start to get to that high level, right? But there's just these levels of, once you get to that B and then to the A tier. And to me, we can sort of look at this in competitive jiu-jitsu now, because in competitive jiu-jitsu, you don't see many D and C tier people, especially you're not going to know their names, right? Unless it's your coach or something like that. But when we start to see the guys that are competing at like worlds at black belt adult, or there are going to be some guys even in the master 1 and 2 divisions that are in these B and A tiers. Okay. These guys are, there's going to be a lot of them that are B tier, but then the best guys that win will be A, right? And you can almost, again, as a black belt, you can almost feel this insane level of grappling from certain people. I'll give you an example. I would say if I've ever fought somebody who was S tier rank, I might have honestly. I've definitely fought some A plus. I don't know if I've ever fought an S tier guy, but if I did, it was probably Murillo Santana. I cannot explain to you guys how far ahead he was when I was a good black belt. I really was. I cannot stress to you enough. I was tough back then, but it was not close. And if you watch the match, the caption of it is like the best match from the Cincinnati Open, because people, the outside perspective, for some reason, thought that it was close at some period. But the truth was, when I was feeling what was happening, he was adjusting very little every time I was adjusting a lot. And then on top of that, every decision he was making, he was getting a little further ahead of me and a little further ahead of me when it came to angles and grip fighting and everything. The only good thing I did in the match was just not tap to a triangle. But besides that, it was just like, it was unbelievable to experience somebody that much better than you when you were a good black belt. And I really was. At that time, I was probably a B tier black belt. No colored belt was going to do much to me. Didn't lose very much in almost any gym I would go to. And, did well competitively with good black belts. But this dude was just on another level. And then, so if he was S tier, then that's that level. Then the guys I think about, like, obviously Gordon is S tier, right? People that can do that level of thing. And honestly, he's like SS tier probably. He's beaten a lot of S tier guys. But there are just, it's crazy. I don't know why. I wish I could explain it to you simpler. I'm working on it. But there is this level of guy that if you get to roll with, even when you're great, it's just unbelievable. And so to me, that's why I always am out believing any jiu-jitsu conspiracy theorist that says that they have something new or a better idea or a better way, because that's how you find out if there's something better out there, right? If there's a better way to do it. Now let's go ahead and we'll move to a commercial break, and then when we come back, we will hit our last 4 plus a bonus hot takes. Check it out. Hey guys, Josh McKinney here. Just wanted to interrupt the podcast really quick and tell you about the newest collaboration. I guess that's what we do on the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show now. We just love to collaborate with different companies. And this time we are collaborating with Revive Jiu-Jitsu Coffee. And we have, you guys have met the owner, Junior Silva, a couple times. But recently, Junior Silva and I actually had the opportunity to go and try coffee to see what was the future I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show roast was going to be. And this is what is called single origin coffee. A lot of times coffee is brought from a lot of different farms all together. Some of it is ripe, some of it is not, and it's roasted very dark, so you don't notice a difference. And this coffee, I would love to tell you why I love it and why I think you should try it. But I thought what would be unique this time is I was actually going to have my friend Connor, who is the owner of Upshot Coffee, who are the roasters for Revive BJJ Coffee. And he's going to explain this idea of single origin coffee in this very eloquent and beautiful way that I just absolutely couldn't. And so here is Connor.
First open, I found myself attracted to bean to bar chocolate. So we want to taste the soil essentially, right? What makes that different? So if you're doing a single origin instead of just a grocery store blend, right? Why are you drinking a single origin? It's because there's something very specific and kind of one time about that, right? To where if I get this bag of coffee and there's 30 bags of this or even 200 bags of this from that growing season, and I prepare that in my shop, and let's say I have 100 pounds of that, that is an experience that you'll never repeat. Because even if I buy that coffee from the farmer and he changes nothing, climate's going to be different next year, right? Even little moderations of the amount of rain, the temperature, all of that stuff. So if I'm serving you a single origin, it's basically like a look into a one-time experience versus something that has 2 or 3 different coffees in it that's been blended to reach a specific taste profile that's very consistent, right? It's not a window into a one-time thing. But I think the beauty of coffee or chocolate or wine or anything is like when that's a one-time experience and it's exceptional.
And I'm back. And honestly, if it took me so long to choose what part of that conversation that I wanted to even feature for this commercial because Connor is such an insightful guy. But be sure to be on the lookout for a new dog vlog on my YouTube channel that will have Connor on it, and we'll be tasting coffee, like I said, with Junior. And he'll just be giving us some insight on coffee and other things that's really cool. And so with that being said, be sure to check out the YouTube channel. Be sure to check out Revive Coffee, the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show lot, the specific I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show lot. We did a really small batch of this, and so this is going to sell out really, really quickly. And then hopefully, if it sells out quick enough, we will do another larger batch of this. But that is all I have for you. There's a link in the description for this if you want to check it out. Get it while supplies last. And yeah, let's go ahead and get back to the episode. And we are back. All right, guys. So I actually lied to you. We have like 6 more hot takes plus a bonus. So I couldn't even tell you. There might be 1,000 hot takes. Apparently I only did 5. But let's start out strong with something that this has been a hot take of the show forever. Die Hard is and always will be a Christmas movie. And to those of you who are like, oh, I'm going to go find that clip that I saw of Bruce Willis last year, I got 100 people that sent me the clip of Bruce Willis saying something along the lines of, Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie. I'm Bruce Willis. I was the lead actor in it. I should know. And you guys all sent me that. I have a super offensive joke that I'm not going to make. But here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to tell me, do some research, and tell me how you feel about Bruce Willis's current cognitive ability right now, okay? You probably don't know that he's struggling right now, okay? And who knows what state he was in when that statement was made. That's all I'll say. Okay, the people that comment that to me. And if not, look at the freaking t-shirt that I'm wearing today. Did anyone notice that I have my t-shirt for the Nakatomi Plaza 1988 Christmas party? And you're going to tell me that that's not a Christmas movie? How did I get this t-shirt? It definitely wasn't that a listener was so excited about the Die Hard debate that he sent me this t-shirt, and he actually did. For whatever reason, the return label didn't have your name on it, so you should send me another message and just remind me who you are so I can give you a proper shout out. But yeah, peep the Nakatomi Plaza Christmas party. Oh man, bonus hot take number 2. There are always, I guess this is bonus hot take number 1. I always hide Easter eggs, right, on the show. Nobody ever comments on them. Nobody ever asks about the Darth Vader doing the force choke on you that says choke dealer. And nobody ever asks about the legal action that was filed when I made that shirt. Nobody, look how forefront the VHS tape of Big Trouble in Little China is. That is pretty much always hidden somewhere in the episode since the last 50 or 60 episodes. Nobody's ever asked about it. It's weird. We have one of those IBJJF yellow and green referee-ish belts. Nobody's ever asked about it. Hey, is that official? Is that a real one? No one's ever asked. There are all kinds of Easter eggs that have been hidden around the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. Nobody cares. But yeah, shout out Nakatomi Plaza Christmas party t-shirt. And then also Big Trouble in Little China. Bonus hot take 2. Big Trouble in Little China is the best movie of all time. Isn't it? Right? I could be wrong about this, but I can't think of anything more authentic to real life than the plot of Big Trouble in Little China. And man, just a 10 out of 10 movie. The point where they're all on the elevator and they had just drank the super special drink, and Egg Shin said something along the lines of, I say something along the lines as if I don't know the quote by heart. They are drinking this, whatever this secret juice is, and Jack says, "Hey, what is this?" And he goes, "Oh, it gives you a great buzz." And he's like, "Oh," and he goes, "And you can see things that no man can see, and you can do things that no man can do." And they're all like, "Oh, okay." Well, then the next scene, they're on the elevator, and you can tell that they're starting to feel whatever they just drank, and they're smiling at each other. And it's just one of the most lighthearted before a fight to the death in any movie ever. Just the whole approach to all of the crazy fight scenes is very lighthearted. Best movie ever. Yeah, I said it. That's bonus hot take number 2. Let's move on from movies. Let's get to what I'm actually an expert in, and it is talking about other people's opinions in jiu-jitsu. And I think that this is, again, this comes directly from your boy, Josh McKinney. I think that it is completely normal to look around every room that you walk in and think to yourself something along the lines of, if an in the gi IBJJF 10-minute round tournament broke out right now, I would beat every single person here, right? If you don't do that, I think you're weird. If you train jiu-jitsu, if you're not always looking at like, man, there's no way that I couldn't score an advantage on this guy, or I couldn't get him to have a penalty for stalling or something, like I'll kill everybody, I just like, I'll guard past every single person in my church right now, Yeah, I think about that stuff a lot. And I think it's weird if you don't. If you're at Applebee's and you're not looking around going, I would score 2 points on him, I would score 3 points on him, I would score a back take on this guy. Oh, look at him. He's going to go to turtle. I'm going to choke this guy. That's an easy submission. I think that's how jiu-jitsu fighters should be looking at life. And so let's move on. This one is hot take from Steve McKinney, a favorite of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show listeners. Guys who tell me that they want to, wait, what did he say? That they want to, guys that tell me who they want to roll like me when they're 60 won't make it there because they can't roll like me now. So, I don't know if I ever stress enough. I mention it on the show, how weird it is for my dad to have trained jiu-jitsu as long as he has, be the age that he is, and still training jiu-jitsu. Okay. So, he has trained jiu-jitsu consistently with me for about 16 years. And so that means he started at 44, or he started at 48, sorry. And, then, now he's 63. He just turned 63, and he and I still roll, and we still roll. I mean, we roll hard. Like, you guys there, we have rounds on the YouTube channel. My dad and I roll, it's not like I'm rolling with any other 63-year-old human being that I've ever met. And again, this is unique in the even in the jiu-jitsu space, where there's a million crazies out there. But this is unique. But what happens all the time when we go to camps, when we go to seminars, when we go to all kinds of stuff, is my dad is this like famous guy because he's old and he does jiu-jitsu, and people are amazed by it. One, he doesn't look that old, but two, it's just like, how are you still training and good at jiu-jitsu and getting better at 63? And he credits it to the way that he trains with weight and the way that he trains jiu-jitsu and the way that he eats. But let's not talk about food right now. But the way that he trains jiu-jitsu. And his opinion is like on how you look at losing and how you look at rolling and how you look at rolling live and how you look at choosing training partners and how you look at feeling the need to prove yourself. And it's this combination of all those things that allows him to train jiu-jitsu. And his argument is, unless you learn those things by 45, by 50, you're not going to make it to 60. There's no way. There's just no way that you are going to be able to keep training that way. And if you see my jiu-jitsu now, the stuff that isn't me competing as a middleweight at adult over the last few years, it is so low impact jiu-jitsu. And even the stuff at the toughest divisions in jiu-jitsu is still so much more controlled than I feel like almost anybody that you're seeing in my division. Not everybody, but almost everybody. Because one, I think that's how you get best at jiu-jitsu, is you get better at taking your physicality out of it, your strength, your speed, because then your strength and speed are going to require cardio, and you take those things out of it and you say, no, I'm going to use my weight, my timing, and my structure to beat these people. And I think that is so much more important to do anyway in jiu-jitsu. At first, it's hard. It's hard to not just fill all of your gaps in knowledge with physicality. But the problem is when you take and you consider that perfect jiu-jitsu that requires that much physicality, you're not going to be able to do it one day. One day you will not be as strong as you are now. That is, if you live that long, that is a fact. You will get weaker. You will get less flexible. You'll get slower. And so if your jiu-jitsu is reliant on those things, then those holes that you were filling with physicality are going to cause you injury. That's my dad's argument. That's where that hot take comes from. All of my best BJJ ideas have been stolen, based in failure, or a complete something. What was it? Based in failure or a complete accident. Oof, yeah, that's true. Everything that I've talked to you guys on the show has been a stolen idea or an idea that was given to me and I changed the structure of it to make it fit an I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show episode. Has been built in a bunch of failures that I or my students and us collectively have had, or just a complete accident. I so seldom have I ever chosen exactly what I wanted to be innovative on and be innovative on it. Most of the time, because innovation is built so much around experimentation and built so much around failure. Most of these cool ideas of end goal method and of designated winner and of champion stay present, all these ideas that we talk about on the show that are really, I think, relevant and really helpful to people. All of these ideas, they're stolen, or they're a combination of a bunch of stolen things. And so that is really just, why would I put that as a hot take, that I'm an idea stealer, is that people will, I got the coolest review. I think this is my favorite review I've ever gotten on the podcast. And a guy said, I really like Josh's show. And it was something along the lines of, he has so many different ways to help you get better at jiu-jitsu, or so many different easy ways to help you get better at jiu-jitsu. It was something really, it was just something about the simplicity and like how you can actually implement this into your jiu-jitsu. I feel like that's what I'm good at, is taking people's ideas and trying to structure them into a simple way to consume them. But I've never just sat and been like, man, training method in jiu-jitsu is not what it should be. Maybe we should do designated winner. Designated winner came from us watching videos and then experimenting with stuff and trying, and just really it just came from the problem of, we knew that there was a missing piece in the way that we explained training jiu-jitsu and the way that you get good at training jiu-jitsu and get good at grappling. And, and it's just like, because again, when I teach I don't have to teach designated winner to guys that wrestle. They can literally come in and start drilling in my advanced class, and it's amazing how similar it looks to everybody else's drilling. It's because those guys have drilled with some energy for a very long time, right? And so when I just look at that, I think that it's not an original idea. It's just sold to you as an original idea, explained to you as an original idea. And I just think that if I'm upfront about that it will hopefully encourage you to go, okay, so just go and be willing to fail and just be really consistent. That's the secret, right? And then you can have your own ideas and your own things that matter to you more. Let's go with 2 more. Ooh, okay. Let's keep this in the order that it's written. No jiu-jitsu competition actually determines who the best grappler is. Only who the best is at the rule set. Now, keep in mind, I just was telling you guys how important jiu-jitsu competition actually is for getting good at jiu-jitsu, at least in my opinion. It's one of the easiest ways to force yourself to get good at jiu-jitsu. But that being said, it is not always who the best grappler is. Very seldom as it is. Sometimes guys are so good. You put a good black belt in a blue belt division, it doesn't matter the rule set. Most likely he's going to beat everybody. But it's so hard for us to actually determine who the best at jiu-jitsu is because it's very hard to determine how to define what that even means. For instance, Robert Drysdale was on the show. He's talking about like realisticness in jiu-jitsu and laying on your back, without touching somebody and just laying flat is not realistic, right? There's that wouldn't make sense. Or, being in positions where you could get slammed technically is not realistic. So do you build a rule to fix that? You go to some tournaments and they have these slam rules that if you put me in an armbar and I pick you up past my hip line, you have to let go of the armbar. And I've seen this in tournaments. So it's like, oh, they're trying to make it more realistic. Okay, well, you're trying to make it more realistic. Here's the problem. What about if my other arm was free to punch you in the face and you were stacked and you were going for the armbar? Do you have to let it go then? If I could hit you, right? Because if you could endure a few punches, you would probably break my arm. And so where is that realism line, right? And so I think it's really important to just go, it isn't. Jiu-jitsu competition is not going to be realistic, and it's not going to be who the best is at jiu-jitsu because so much of what jiu-jitsu is and what grappling is what we define it as. And so what the best person is might not be the best person who could translate directly into MMA because he spent most of his time working guard, and guard doesn't translate as well into MMA versus the guy who was a better wrestler and better at getting on top and scoring too, and even better at guard passing. His jiu-jitsu translates well, right? Better in positional control on top so you can hit somebody. And so does that make one guy better than the other? No. When we are doing jiu-jitsu, it's like when you are playing basketball and you go, okay, well, we're trying to figure out the best team and you have all these playoffs. And it's like, yeah, but if the playoffs were a little longer, the team who won might switch. It went down to game 7. So if the team is switching, it's not about who's best because it's about who's best that night. It's about performance. This is what I'm trying to get out, is jiu-jitsu is a sport when we watch it as a sport. And so to assume that that means that everybody who you see win or lose is good or bad or is better than the guy that they lost to. You see all these matches because of all these different rule sets where guys will lose a match where they passed the guard 2 or 3 times, but they were in a few guillotines when they took the guy down to initially get on top, and it's submission only. Submission only. He went for more submissions. You mean he missed more submissions? The other guy had positional dominance. And you want to talk about realistic, things. If you're in mount, you're going to win the fight. If you're mounting somebody who can't get you off of them, you probably win, right? And so it's not about being realistic. We are all choosing what rule set we go into. It is on us as competitors to go, okay, this is the rule set that is that I am deciding to work. This is a rule set I'm deciding to compete in. I need to focus on that rule set. I need to go try to win in that rule set because it's just a sport. If it was football, you wouldn't think twice about, well, I didn't like how they played the game. They beat me, but I just, I didn't like how they beat me. How they beat me, it's like I really didn't lose because they only kicked field goals and we had a touchdown. Yeah, but they kicked 4 field goals and you had 1 touchdown. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you think touchdowns are more important than field goals. You lost. Jiu-jitsu is the exact same way. It does not matter that you think, well, I didn't get submitted. I didn't let this happen. It doesn't matter. You lost. You didn't let winning happen. You didn't let victory happen, right? And so when it comes to that, like, I don't even know how I'm on this. Okay, we just got to move on because I was wanting to actually go to not rant on that one very much so I can I could get into this last hot take because I know it's going to be too much. But yeah, best jiu-jitsu competitors are not necessarily the best jiu-jitsu guys. Sometimes they are, but it just does not, sometimes you had a good draw. And if the first and second place guy fight each other first round at a tournament, the 2 best guys, and it's a super hard fight, and then that whoever comes out of that could lose the next round just because he was tired, are those the worst people in the tournament now? No, it's because competition doesn't always determine who is the best at jiu-jitsu. So a thought off that is like, if you want to compete, make sure you're training for competition and your mindset is built around, I need to score these points because it changes the game. And I think that will make a huge difference for a lot of people. Anyway, there are multiple ways to get good at jiu-jitsu. Understanding how the individual learns is as important as the training method itself. And now this is where we will end today's episode on because this is actually, we're going to start next week's episode, and it is on training method and looking at how you learn specifically. And I just don't think it's weird because there's no way to actually translate this into a jiu-jitsu class that I have found yet. I think that maybe this idea hasn't been as popular as some of my other ideas on the show, or because I didn't do an audio episode on it. I've only written a book about it, and I'm a terrible writer, and people don't want to read. They listen. And so it's just, we're going to look at this idea of the 3 lenses, and I'm going to really break it down for you guys next week. But the idea of it is that there are 3 ways that I've identified that I think people learn jiu-jitsu from, like 3 perspectives that they can see jiu-jitsu from. And, it will help you if you're the small detail guy, but your coach is this big picture, big idea guy, right? Those are 2 different lenses that we look through to learn jiu-jitsu. Or maybe your coach is a do it by feel guy, and he can you ask him a specific question and he can just show you exactly how he feels his way through that position. And so maybe as a detail guy that helps you because you're always getting new details, right? And that's like this collaborative thing on you and your coach learning differently, but being able to benefit from it, right? Or maybe you're a reps guy and you feel way better learning jiu-jitsu in individual moves or in sequences as long as you can get enough reps with it. And so if any of those kind of clicked for you, or if you're the coach that feels his way through jiu-jitsu, or not a coach, but just somebody who feels their way through grappling and has a lot of trouble explaining it, it's going to be beneficial for all those people when we look at that episode. And so that episode, again, will be out next Thursday, and it will be on the 3 lenses. But that is all to say that so much of being a coach is not being an instructor. And I think people don't understand that in jiu-jitsu. The best coaches help the individuals. The best instructors help the group, right? Because they're 2 different jobs. And so you can be both, but it's so important to go around the room and to identify the guys that how you teach doesn't resonate with. And maybe there's a little thing you can tweak that helps them, right? Or sometimes I have, certain things that I've taught for a long time, or I like to do certain ways. And my black belt, Eric, will literally be translating my jujitsu moves into big guy language for a group of the bigger guys. And he will just like, show them that. And one, having the openness of your gym to be able to do that, and the high level coaches to be able to do that, and for me not have to micromanage and just know that it's going to be good, but also to just kind of identify that what I teach is not 100% useful 100% of the time for 100% of people. There's going to be variation, and there's going to be things that other ways to help people. And I just think as a coach, if you can identify your individuals and see how they're progressing and see who needs more attention and who needs less, who doesn't need attention at all and can just do their own thing. I think that is one of the most important things you can do as a jiu-jitsu coach in 2024, when people are able to they're able to find instructors everywhere, right? There are so many different YouTube instructors that will just give them moves and give them moves and give them moves. I think now in the jiu-jitsu school space, the value of the coach is going up even more because of how easy it is to be an instructor online. There aren't many guys that actually coach you in jiu-jitsu online. And so, yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Let's go ahead. We'll just end today's episode with a quick thought, and that is this. Be sure, if you like the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, be sure to at least see what the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show Pro is about. If you are a big coffee drinker, you should absolutely check out the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, the Flow Roll Roast, at Revive BJJ Coffee. That's at revivejujitsu.com, revivebjj.com, and I will give you guys a link to that. But again, you can order the very, very small batch of coffee that we did in collaboration with Revive Coffee. And besides that, hope you guys enjoyed these hot takes, and hope you guys check out the Three Lenses episode next week. I think it's going to be as the kids say, banger. And I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.